In today's video, we discuss how to stop binge eating.
All by myself.
Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Revelia from ProPhysique.com. It's Tuesday morning and it is a beautiful morning here in October in Florida. The temperature dropped a little breeze and the humidity has dissipated. So it's finally that time of year in Florida where everybody gets to be jealous of us because the weather is amazing. So yesterday I made a video early in the morning, and when I get up in the morning, I just get up and I go to my office and I start working. I have my breakfast. And I don't really catch up on the day's events. So I wasn't really aware what had happened in Las Vegas. So first of all, that was obviously an insane tragedy. It reminded me of the event that happened in Orlando. I think it was 2016 with the guy in the nightclub. That nightclub was actually less than a mile from my house in Orlando that I own. And it was a nightclub that I used to drive by every single day, Pulse. So it brought back a lot of those memories, senseless tragedy, and you're never gonna make sense of senseless tragedies. People can argue guns, people can argue crazy, people can argue whatever they want. I don't get involved in that. It doesn't change anything. All you can do is move forward, okay? And so generally when these things happen, it feels like it's a movie where it's not really involving anyone you know or touching anyone you know. And I've been very lucky. No one I directly know has been impacted by any of these things, but my friend Diana, who lives in Las Vegas, one of her best friends was struck by a bullet, and they have a GoFundMe set up. She's a single mom, beautiful girl, and she was shot in the face, and she survived luckily, and she's still going through surgeries. As far as I know, she's doing better, but Diana and Ryan are people that I love and I consider like family. I just spent some time with Diana in Las Vegas 2 weeks ago. And so I'm gonna link their GoFundMe below. Give, don't give, it's not really important. I just felt like if I could help out in any way, I'm going to give money to this person because I don't know, it just feels like the right thing to do. I'm very fortunate in my life that I have the opportunity to do that, so I'm going to take some of my money that I had set aside for other things and I'm going to give it to her, and hopefully it helps her and her 2 boys and her family do better, be happy. I can't even imagine what they're going through right now. Really kind of puts everything into place when you hear about tragedy like that. And that's kind of what's been going through my mind the last day. It's like your thoughts just keep drifting to these people that are dealing with this horrific tragedy of this asshole that wanted to shoot a machine gun out of a fucking hotel. It just doesn't make any sense, man. But I digress. If you would like to give some money, there's a GoFundMe link below. Again, no pressure. I just, maybe because there's like a direct link between my friend and you guys, maybe you'll want to give some money. I find it hard and difficult to give money when it's just like not a personal thing, but this feels very personal to me. Like I want to help out Diana's friend, and so yeah, I'm gonna do that. And if you guys do it, that would just make me happy. Even if you give $1 or $5, I mean, just think about how much you could impact somebody's life in a positive way. If it's something you can do, if not, completely understand. Again, it's just what I feel. It's about me, how I think about this situation. And then let's change gears because I'm feeling a little melancholy right now. Let's talk about eating disorders, binge eating, and bodybuilding. So for whatever reason, I was watching YouTube the other day and I found a video that Amanda Bucci had made a while back about her competition. And when I read some of the comments, it was about why are these people at the competition all eating like donuts and treats after the show? And the comments were very negative, like look at all these people with an eating disorder. And eating disorders are very serious. So if someone has an eating disorder, that's not something to laugh about, joke about. or even kid about, because eating disorders can lead to life or death situations, okay? The most common eating disorder is called anorexia, and that's where, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not a psychologist, but that's basically where people just become obsessed with the way their body looks. They never actually feel like they're lean enough. They restrict food. They associate food with negative outcomes like body fat gain. And so, it's just a very vicious cycle. And so that's not what's happening with bodybuilding. With bodybuilding, there does become some binge eating issues, but I want to talk about why that is. So first of all, I want to talk about how to deal with binge eating. First of all, I'm not a psychologist, so I'm going to give you a fantastic resource. My friend, Dr. Kori. If you're watching this and if you're having some serious binge eating disorders, and if you're a competitor, because that's kind of like my genre, right? Kori is a world champion physique competitor. She's also a doctor. She is very well equipped to handle this, and anytime I get a client that I start to see some things happening that I'm not comfortable with, I refer them to Kori. Kori has done a fantastic work. Every time I get to see her and talk to her, I'm just astounded by her wealth of knowledge. And so I'll link her email below. It's Kori@thedietdoc.com. She's a fantastic resource for anyone. These are just going to be my kind of steps and things that I look for with a competitor who's dealing with binge eating issues. And we just had Aria Adami on the podcast the other day, and Aria talked about her binge eating issues after being on a diet for a prep for a long time, how she would hide food in her office, she would sneak out to eat stuff, and her mindset was, whatever, I'll just eat whatever I want and I'll cardio it off later. So she was actually, in her mind, kind of binging, purging. She was binging. The purge wasn't like vomiting or anything. It was actually just, I'll just binge and do 4 hours of cardio, which she literally said she did. Which is, it's not an uncommon thing as a coach. My goal as a coach for someone that's going to compete is to do it in a healthy manner, the healthiest manner possible. It's not always the case. I will say this, bodybuilding probably attracts people with eating disorders because of the structured, accepted diet that goes along with it. So if someone has an eating disorder and they want to hide it, they can say, well, I'm a bodybuilder, and that makes the things okay. What I don't like, what I really try to do with my clients is make sure that they are handling their diet well. Yes, the leaner you get, more food obsessed you're going to be, and certainly the lower your calories get, temptation and foods can really cause some crazy responses. I remember in prep last time in 2012, on my refeed days, I would really struggle to stop eating. I would have like 400 carbs on my refeed days, and I would struggle. I would get to that 400 mark, and I would be reaching for more food, and I would be like, what is going on? And so when you're really low body fat, your brain is really fighting for you to eat more. Did I have an eating disorder? No. I had a short issue with food cravings, okay? So there's a big issue. So when I hear people talk about bodybuilders have an eating disorder, it's not a direct correlation. So how do you deal with that? Well, first of all, if you're a bodybuilding competitor and you've never had an eating disorder and you're starting to feel that way, well, pay attention to if you're using a flexible diet approach, if you're using a really rigid plan. I think the number one warning sign for binge eating and things like this is starting to associate foods negatively. I know I've done it in the past where I've kind of said, oh, well, that food is bad for me, and therefore I can't eat it, and therefore if I eat it, I'm off my plan. And that's where the landslide happens. That's where the binge happens in my experience. Talking to clients over the years is once you have a piece of pizza or once you have a piece of cake, you're quote unquote not good anymore. You're not on your diet. So you might as well just go off the rails, start fresh tomorrow, start fresh Monday. That type of thinking is where flexible dieting really excels, where we can go, okay, I'm gonna have a piece of cake, I'm gonna have a piece of pizza, I'm gonna have 3 pieces of pizza, whatever it is. The first thing I do with my clients that say, Coach, I wanna be honest, I had a binge, I need to check in with you. Let's talk about the binge. Let's minimize the word binge, because I think sometimes people feel really guilty about that and they want to immediately do a bunch of cardio or not eat for 2 days. So the first thing I try to do is Let's quantify it. Let's take some numbers out of this thing. Guys, something I almost forgot about, a quick aside. I'm hosting a camp in October. The camp is October 19th to the 22nd, Thursday night till Sunday afternoon, okay? And I have some amazing people coming to speak. I have Dr. Joe Klemzeski, Dr. Bill Campbell, Lauren Conlon, Katie Rutherford, Ryan Doris, George Rosado. We're all gonna be training, eating, giving some lectures in an amazing setting here in Tampa, Florida. We're gonna do some team building stuff. Most of it's my clients. Well, a couple of my clients had some issues and they had to back out last second. If anyone's interested, please email training@prophysique.com. It's $700 and that does not include any of the travel expenses or your hotel. But if you'd like more details, email training@prophysique.com, and I think it'll be a great event for anyone that's in the fitness community. If you're watching my videos, you might be interested because all the people I mentioned are fantastic business entrepreneurs, online coaching, coaches. You're gonna get some great training advice, exercise science from some of the biggest experts in the field and the people that I look up to the most. So if you're interested, anyway, back to the video. So let's say you had a whole pizza. Let's say you had cake and cookies and whatever. Do a diet recall. Get some data out of it. I've had people tell me they binged and I found out they only had 3 Quest bars. So, right, like that to them felt like a binge because they couldn't stop eating, but they were actually probably not that crazy off with their macros. Now, there's gonna be some negative weight gain association from binge eating just because the massive amounts of sodium and potentially fat and carbs. But if we can take the data and look at it and say, okay, you were over 150 carbs, you were over 100 fat, you were over this much calories for the day, let's start by taking a few calories away from the next 4 days, 5 days, week, right? So we're not looking at this as like an all or nothing. We're looking at it as a flexible approach, So just because you go off the plan doesn't mean you completely change your mindset. No, we want to learn from it, pay attention. The one thing I don't want to happen with any of my competitors ever, and this will probably be my biggest lesson for how to avoid binge eating issues, is to not look at it as all or nothing. There's nothing you can eat that's going to ruin your life. And so look at it like a big picture, okay? What's a big picture thing that's going to set you back for years? Not eating some food, okay? We fix it within a few days. A lot of people know they'll do a show and they'll go out and have some food they haven't had a while and they'll be up 3 or 4 pounds. But if they get back on their diet and are pretty good in the next few days, shoot, they might even be at a new low at the near future. So sometimes that data you get from that binge can actually provide a method for us to hit a new low. This is where things like refeeds, diet breaks actually can be beneficial. And that's why I don't like the term cheat meal. It implies that you're doing something wrong, and I do not want to do something wrong. I want to create kind of a healthy association. So for anyone that's ever been to a competition and you see people eating food after the show, that's not necessarily an eating disorder. I would say it's rarely an eating disorder. And if it is, it's from someone that's had that issue previously. So here's why. When I compete, my calories get low. I tend to start choosing more voluminous foods that don't cause cravings. And so when the show is over, you kind of want to celebrate. And one of the things that everyone around you wants you to do is eat the food that you haven't been eating. It feels good for them to see you bite into a hamburger or eat some pizza or have a drink of alcohol, right? So that for them is enjoyment. And I, as a competitor, remember going out after my first show with my friends. We went to Outback Steakhouse and I had a steak and I had a dessert and I had a beer, and it felt good to be with my friends in a setting. They were happy to see me enjoy stuff. And so I wanted to take part in that. Another thing that happens when you haven't had food that is cooked that way, like with oil and butter and tons of salt, it tastes amazing. Nothing ever tastes as good as food after you've been on a long diet, a long prep diet. That first bite, it kind of reminds you how much you love food. So, and that's something I actually enjoy doing. I actually enjoy restricting myself from things, and it's not just about diet and bodybuilding, but I actually enjoy restricting for the enjoyment down the road, like a delayed onset gratification. I really enjoy that. That's something that I do. That's a recurring theme in my life. So when it comes to food obsession or binge eating or any kind of eating disorder behavior, If it's just an occurrence once or twice, I do not consider it serious. Now, if you diet for a show and after the show you notice that you're starting to see some changes in behavior and you start using competition as a way to kind of curb your eating issues, then you might start having some eating issues, as Aria discussed. So she probably had some short-term eating disorder behavior, but to this day, I feel like that's not an issue for her, okay? She has corrected it. Prior to ever competing, she never had an issue with food. She said she ate whatever she wanted and was always thin. So learning to diet the wrong way can create some eating disorder behavior, but you can also come out of it. That's going to be it for me today, guys. I just wanted to get this thought out there after reading some people's comments. And I understand those people are probably not educated. They probably never competed. They probably don't know much about diet, nutrition. They were just comment trolls. But I do feel like, someone like my parents or people that come to the bodybuilding shows, it's probably strange to see people that are in really good shape eating a donut and freaking out at how good it is. But I just wanted to explain that why. Because it tastes amazing at that point. Nothing ever tastes as good as it does. Like, your brain literally changes your taste buds, and I'm not kidding. Like, food tastes amazing after being on a long prep diet. And so I guess it would look weird to people from the outside, but it's just one of those things that if you get involved in it and do it, it makes a lot more sense. And it's just like anything else in the world. Any other thing that you do, anything that's going to get you some accolades or feel good, there's going to be some restriction, and that might look weird to the outside world. To me, it might seem weird that someone wants to sit in a boat for 12 hours to catch a 1-pound fish. That's some people's whole life. They love it to death. I think it's fucking bizarre. Fishing is just weird to me, okay? But it doesn't mean I don't understand it or don't support it. So if you don't understand something, doesn't mean you can't support it. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it from me. Sorry if the mood was a little bit down today. It's just that, it's definitely sticking with me, the events of Las Vegas, and I'm sure it is anybody out there. I mean, unless you're a sociopath, you can kind of go there in your mind how it would feel to be going through something like that. Let's have an awesome week ahead. Support anybody that needs support. If you have eating disorder or behaviors that you feel like are a problem, reach out to Kori. Her email's below. And if you have any comments or questions below, let me know. And I appreciate all the support, guys, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.